What's up, everybody? It's D to the J with the roll away for another exciting episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. I know I've been down for a couple of weeks, and I appreciate you being with me, hanging in there with me. I know I've had a lot of things going on. Kind of go through some updates of what's been going on. I've had a chair issue, basically with my left footrest. I had ordered it. It took about 3 weeks to get the part in, and then once I got the part in, I was in my older chair that is over 10 years old, and it just messed up my back and my legs, and it's shorter and doesn't have any of the features of the recline or anything like that. And I was just down because I could only be in that chair about 4 hours at a time before I had to get out and stretch out. And then finally, when I got the footrest in, I basically there was a part underneath the footrest that had to be shaved down, and we had to get somebody out to do that, and had to get a ATP involved, and it just a lot of things that were going on. So I know that like I said, I haven't been around the past 3 weeks, and I appreciate it. I've been dealing with a lot with this chair, but I'm back in my new chair now and got everything fixed. It's amazing how one little piece can do so much damage to where that one little piece makes everything fit perfectly. But shout out to New Motion and Jeff for getting that done. Now, what I want to talk about today, I want to go through this because I feel like something needs to be said about where are we now. Now, I don't want this to be, one of these, tearjerker episodes where it's all, woe is the world. I'm not trying to make it like that. The way that I am and the type of person I am, I do, what I say I'm going to do, and I be the best person that I can be within the limits of myself. I was talking to my mom the other day, and my mom referenced, I miss the old days. I miss the old days when everything wasn't so important and family meant something. Now, the amazing part to me is, I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s. And one of the things that I love, I was just watching a game right now from 2003. I was in college, ending college in 2003, getting ready to get into my first apartment, living in Waynesboro at the time. Excited, being in my early 20s, having a true love. I thought, I had everything figured out. I had my manual chair. I was playing football. I was muscular. I was working out. I wasn't in martial arts at the time. But everything was smooth. And I remember kind of what my mom said when she said, I miss life being smooth like it was. My mom turned 70 this past couple days. Her birthday was on the 23rd. And we talked about a family and being able to be together at the dinner table. And I look at life, and you think about, well, what's that got to do with, my CP doesn't define me? This show is about life-changing stories and people that have gone through amazing things. As a world right now, as a country right now, we are in shambles. I believe that we have more technology than we need. I believe that we need to go back to basics as a people. I had my first cell phone before I went to college. I had gotten it about a year maybe before I went to college. I had a Nokia. I had 300 texts a month, 500 minutes, and unlimited weekends after 7 o'clock. I looked at my life. I was raised by my mother. My father was on again, off again, almost non-existent at times. He was, he tried to be what he was going to be and didn't turn out to be the father that he wanted to be. But that was his choice. My mother and grandparents and brother raised me. And they did one hell of a job. I talked to my mom the other day. I said, your son is 43. Hey, Kristen. And I say, Mom, you are awesome. I called my mom for Mother's Day, and I told her that I loved her, but not just because she was my mom, but because of all the things she had helped make me into as a man to grow up today. And I look at this and I remember the rules that my mother installed in me when I was going through school. If you do the crime, you do the time. If you don't study for a test, you fail. If you don't prepare yourself in life, you can't go through life blind. And I remember a couple of the conversations that my mother and I had when I was getting ready to go to college, because I was very nervous about being away from home. I was excited, but I was scared to death because things were changing. And I'm the type of person, I do not like change. I never really have. And it took me forever to learn how to, hey Kayla, how are you? It took me forever to learn how to adapt to change. And my mother and grandparents installed in me, no matter what you do, and I remember this very, very, very completely, no matter what you do, always put your best foot forward and do the best you can, because you can do anything that you want to do as long as you put your mind to it. And not just part of it. Not just part of it. It's the whole experience of being to succeed. Because I remember this, I was talking with my grandmother one time, and I wanted to be an astronaut, or I wanted to go to space, or drive NASCAR or something. And she said, well, you've got to start out by trying. You don't achieve success by not trying. And I look at life now, and I go through that, and I've wrote a book, I've done, music and getting the book published and going through all these things. Success is not an overnight thing. And I think most people in this day and age expect it to be. Live in the moment, even though change is hard. Yeah, that well said. And I had to learn that change was gonna happen, whether you're ready for it or not. But you don't have to be ready for it to embrace it. Because you can actually make change work for you instead of against you. And I'm gonna talk about a little bit tonight, kind of in that whole premise of where are we now, and maybe give you just a little bit of that going through the show tonight. I succeeded in high school very well. I graduated with a 3.5, almost a 3.75 GPA. I got an advanced studies diploma at Wilson High School. It's back to Manor now. And when I went to college, I went to Woodrow Wilson Center for Employment, which is in Fishersville, Virginia. It was my first time from, being away from home for that long. You're talking about, 2.5 years of working and classes and all of this. I was very attached to my family. I was very attached to my friends. My life was structured the way I was raised. I would go to school, come home, do my homework, and then watch some TV, play Nintendo, whatever. I had to be in bed by I believe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on the weekdays as I was older. But my life had value. My life had structure because Mom made it that way to prepare me to succeed. And I think part of the problem that we're facing now is a lot of us are forgetting some of the old ways, because you can't discipline your children anymore. You can't spank them. You can't hit them. You can't pop them. Let me tell you, my mother spanked me twice in my entire lifetime, maybe 3 times. And the times that she spanked me, let me tell you, I deserved it. I believe in the discipline of a child, not beating them to death. There's a big difference. There's a big difference in beating your child to death and giving them a good butt whooping when they need one. My mother prepared me for the future, but did not let me roll her over. I backtalked my mom, and I paid for it. I got put on punishment. Things got taken away. I learned real quick. You live under my roof, you obey my rules. That's the way it works. It worked. That's the way it should still be now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Kids nowadays take advantage of their moms like they're nothing. Like they're nothing. They don't care about the things that they get. The things that I learned at a very early age, and I took into adulthood, and it was hard-headed, but the value of $1. My mom could stretch $1 further than any woman I'd ever seen, and then when she gave it to my grandmother, she would stretch it even further. Now, what I mean by that is, my mom raised 2 kids and worked 3 jobs to raise 2 kids, one with a disability. My mom very seldom complained, but was thankful. My mom was a thankful woman. She always said, if it weren't for Nanny and Pop, sometimes we wouldn't have had food on the table. Because they helped us when we needed it, and it was valuable. That value that I took from my mom and from my grandparents and learned from my brother and from my family helped shape me into the man that I am today. Now, here is the thing that I'm going to go across, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but I think society has forgotten the role between a mother and a child, or a father and a child, or a grandparent and a child. They are not there to be your friends. They are there to be your parents. That's what they're there for. They put food on your table and clothes on your back. Money doesn't grow on trees. You can't just get it from anywhere. And our values in society have all but disappeared. Because technology, I believe, although good in a lot of ways, has made us want more than we really need. The internet is part of it, but again, there's good and bad there. There's pros and cons there. Exactly. That's exactly where I'm going. Kids these days think they are the parents. Kids these days forget their role as children. Now, am I saying children are meant to be seen and not heard? No. No, that I am not saying. I don't want to get that role put out there. I believe that children should be heard, but in a respectful way. Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am have gone out the window. I was raised. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. If I didn't say that, I'd get popped, because that's the way I was raised. My mother, you will respect your elders. Now, this has nothing to do with forgetting who you are. Part of this is when you overstep your boundaries and you make a mistake. A parent will tell a child, "Don't touch that stove, it's hot." A parent will tell them over and over, "Don't stick that in that hole, you're going to pay for it later. Don't pick up the knife by that end, it's sharp." A parent can talk to a child until they're blue in the face. But there will be a point where that child is going to go on their own. There will be a point where that child is going to go to that stove and touch that stove. And then they burn their hand and they, ow, 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 it's hot, ow, ow, ow. And mom comes over and kisses and hugs. "Oh, baby, I tried." No, that is part of it. I told you the stove was hot. If you touch that stove, it's going to burn. We as a people now discipline our kids differently. Okay, I'm going to be real with you for a minute. When I was growing up, our neighbors could spank us. Our babysitters could spank us. And then we had to deal with it again when we got home. But again, we're talking about core values. Where are we now? You barely can touch a child now. Because what do? They threaten. "You touch me, I'll call social services, I'll call 911 and tell them you're abusing me." My mom said this. "You want to call 911? She handed me the phone. She said, "I'll tell you one thing. By the time they get here, your butt will have been abused." My mother worked harder and my grandparents worked harder than most people that I know, because they wanted us to succeed. But they wanted us to succeed in the right way. And they did the best they could with what they had. But now you have 3 and 5-year-old children telling their parents what they're going to do. And the parents have gotten off of the disability or the discipline wagon and say, okay. Look, I'll put it out there for you. I'm in the process of adoption with my wife. I'm in the process with my wife of adopting a little one. Okay? I want him to succeed. I want him to have dreams. I want him to have goals. I want him to have his own thoughts and what he wants to be and what he likes, and I want to coach him and love him and be the best parent that I can be for him. Now, on top of all that, if I don't instill in him what my parents instilled in me to make me the man that I am today, how can my lineage or how can our lineage move on? Kim will discipline, and she knows how to discipline, but she does it differently. Women are nurturers. They're caretakers. It's what they do. It's what they were put on this earth to be. I'll tell you now, some of these women in this world today have lost their damn mind. I don't know what they're thinking. And it's not that it starts off. Children have to be disciplined in the home. This is kind of what I'm talking about as to where we are now. Before my child ever sets foot outside, it will know 3 things. Look both ways before you cross the street. Do not talk to anybody you don't know. And if you want to find out the truth, come to me. Here's where people get confused. There is a right and a wrong time for your children to hear and know things. Children are like sponges. Their brain soak up everything. The one thing that I want to do for my son, the one thing that I want to do for our child is leave him a path that he can go down that was better than what I had. And let me tell you, I had it pretty good because my mom bestowed core values upon me that I still use to this day. Everybody wants to pick up a baby every time it cries. You check to see if it's wet. You check to see if it's hungry. You check to see if it's hurt. Sometimes you have to let a baby cry it out. Because a baby is going to test that threshold. Once they figure out that you respond to their cry, which is quick, they're going to test that out. I'll give you a perfect example. We saw Charlie on Friday. I'm holding Charlie in this hand right here. I got him up against my chest. I'm bottle feeding my son. And he starts to wiggle, 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 and slippy slip. So I got to readjust him. And Kim takes his bottle away from him. And what's he do? I said, my man, hold up a minute. Let me readjust you. We'll put the bottle right back in your mouth. He looked at her and started smiling. Children know what they want. Children know what they need. If I had Robin said this, if I hadn't had a solid fear of getting my ass beat, God only knows where in life I would have gone. That is this structure that I'm talking about. Where we are now, we don't fear anything because parents don't put fear in us no more. Okay, now I want to talk about something, and I kind of want to go back. Do you guys remember game night? Where you and a whole family would sit down and play a game of Monopoly or Clue or Chutes and Ladders or Scrabble or poker night or card night. You know, I was talking to Captain Jack earlier, and you guys have heard me mention Captain Jack a lot. He's the godfather of my son. And I'm sorry, Kim and I's son. And we were talking about you would have loved it when. And Captain talked a little bit about being able to go outside when he was living in his house with his friends, and they'd set up a poker table and they would come over and play cards all night long till 4 a.m. They would not play for money. They would play for candy over Halloween. They would bet candy. They would play for penny candy. They would play for, where the winner got a bunch of candy from, wherever, and they all potted it up, and everything was worth the same amount. That was valuable. Going out and playing tic-tac-toe in the dirt. Going and playing kickball. Going and playing guns when it wasn't, I'm going to kill you and you kill me. And, we used to play guns around the neighborhood all the time. And values now have changed. Children talk to their parents like their parents have no authority. If I talked to my mom that way, I wouldn't have any damn teeth. Because my mom would have smacked them out of my head. My mother gave birth to me. My mom said this, I brought you into this world, boy. I'll take you out. And that was true. But my mom also supported me and taught me right from wrong and taught me what value was. Now, I'm not saying I wasn't a pushy kid that didn't push my limits. Every child pushes their limits. But it's the parent's job to let that child or those children understand that they are limits. And if you push your limits too far, I'm going to tang your butt and you're going to learn. I believe in structure. I believe in the ability to discipline without beating your child to death. You ain't got to slam your child's head in the wall. You ain't got to put your child in the microwave, throw your child down the stairs head first. That's stupid. You know how to discipline a child. Children learn what they are taught. If the home environment is toxic, the children are going to be toxic. If the home environment is F this, F that, F this, the children are going to be F that, F this, F that. If I would have done that, my mom would have had a bar of soap for every F I ever spat out. And the only F I better spit out is fun facts and failure to understand. And that way I wouldn't have had no soap in my mouth. Because the value of your words that you speak to your children teaches them who they are. You see, it's people like Captain Jack, and it's people like my mom, and it's people like my family that value those times. Who sits down to dinner anymore and eats together? Who sits down on Sunday afternoon and has fried chicken, mashed potatoes, biscuits, collard greens? Who does that? Oh, Siobhan, I love that. I love that right there. Let me read this. You are talking about parenthood, question mark. Bless your heart. 30 years of that. They never stop being children. You are going to experience challenges, both positive and otherwise, that will give you strength like you won't believe. It's new. Enjoy the ride. But see, here's the thing, and I love what she said because it's very true, but in the same reason, as I said, if the home environment is toxic, your child or children will love and learn that toxicity. They will be bred into it. A good sound spanking worked wonders. I didn't get many because I learned quick. Exactly. Robin said it right there. A good sound spanking worked wonders. I didn't get many because I learned quick. You know why? Because your butt hurt. And you didn't want your butt to hurt no more. My mom was spanking me one time and she said, move your hand. I said, move my hand? I'm trying to save what little bit I got down here. That was the worst beating I ever got. See, the problem is we get too connected in, as I said before, friendship. Parents are not your friends, they're your parents. Okay? And I'm going to say this ahead of time so that when Charlie turns 15, goes on Oprah, writes a book about every bad thing I ever did and blames it on me, I'm going to love our son no matter what he does. No matter what mistakes he makes, no matter what, what he becomes, no matter what he wants to be, I'm going to love him with all the love that I possess. Because I want a child to know that is brought into this home, he is going to be, she is going to be, they are going to be loved and understood as we were. We are going to be the best damn parents we know how to be. But at the same time, we will learn on the journey of parenthood together. Look, and here's the thing. I've said this before. Parenthood doesn't come with a manual. Relationships don't come with a manual. Hell, women don't come with manuals. If they did, we still wouldn't know what they wanted because it would be written in another language and we would still be trying to figure it out. I'm being honest, but you know how you learn? You communicate and you talk about it. You communicate and you talk about it. I was going through something the other day and all the hurt just came out and it wasn't directed at Kim at all. And she knew where the hurt was coming from and why the hurt was coming. Adoption is a hell of a process. You gotta wait. There's a little bit of stuff that you do and a whole hell of a lot of waiting. And I am a patient man, but having a son, dear God, you got to have a lot more patience than you thought you had before. And Robin said it, it's the same way with men. Men can, but see, here's the thing. When you're able to communicate with your partner or the person that you're with, and you're able to do it without coming to blows at each other, that's how it works. I never thought I would date anybody with cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is tough enough for me to figure out. Now I got to date somebody with it? Oh my God. I thought I was crazy. But it turned out that I was crazy, but in a good way, And the move actually worked for me because the person that I'm with understands where I may be weak. She's strong, and where she may be weak, I'm strong, and we lift each other up in our own weakness. But I want to say this. There's nothing wrong with figuring out the journey that you're on. There's nothing wrong with figuring out the journey that you're on. Captain Jack said this: the only time you should look down at somebody is in the attempt to lift them up. You know, I mention Captain a lot on this show because Captain, I got to be honest, I feel like I carry him with me everywhere I go. And somebody's going, oh, you've said that before about other people. You know, I don't have a lot of people that I call friends anymore. I have less true friends than I have a number of fingers. And the problem with that is, you know, I don't let people in anymore because I've been burned so many times. After a while, you just get tired of being freaking burned all the time, and I don't want to deal with it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. With Jack, he knows how to go through a situation when I'm angry. He knows how to calm me. When I'm upset, he knows how to make me laugh. But he also cares about my feelings. He doesn't make me feel small, but what he's been through in some of his life has been pure hell. If you knew 1/10 of his story, you know, you would go, wow, I really didn't expect that. Keep your enemies close. Keep your enemies closer and your friends next to you. See, but, and this kind of goes into this. I used to have this philosophy that I had to have everybody like me. I used to have the philosophy that there was something wrong if you don't like me. Now, if you don't like me, I don't give a flying. I'll be honest. I don't give a flying if you don't like me at all. I don't care. You don't have to like me, but you damn sure gonna respect me. That's the difference. And you know, I'll be honest, I have a hard time letting things go. Things stick to me like glue. And I was approached by Captain Jack one time, and he goes, you know, you really need to have a thick skin, and you actually do from dealing with me. And I go, why? And he tells me why, and I said, well, we're not going to share that story on air. And he laughs, you know, but the thing about it is, when you have, I don't have to have 90 friends now. I don't have to have, thank you. I don't have to have 900 friends that like me if I've got 5 of them that truly care for me and would do anything for me. You know, I never thought virtual reality was going to be my thing. I didn't like it. Until I met Crazy Dizzy and Captain and Raven and Shihan and the, you know, getting into J-Bags and the people over at the firehouse, I got family now, and some of these guys are, 30, 45 minutes away, and you start doing comedy over here and comedy over there, and you start having days where you're working on things and you're getting well known and you're getting yourself out there and your music gets out there. It makes life easier when you can forget about having to pay the rent for an hour. And with Jack, every time I'm on the phone with him, I wish time would kind of just stand still, because he's like this megaphone that you just want to get closer to. And I catch myself calling him at nighttime just so I can fall asleep when I'm struggling. And you think, well, why do you need somebody to help you fall asleep? It's just the way that he is. I can talk about my day, and he may be tired as hell, or he may be in the middle of something, or he may be tired, going through something, but he takes the time to listen. And it's a two-way street. Friendship for us is a two-way street. I would do anything for these people. And there's not many. There's not a lot of them. Some people in VR are total assholes. And they mean to be, because all they want to do is tear you down. But it's just like the shows I've covered before and said, look, VR is the same in life. The only difference is you can turn that shit off. You don't like what you're seeing? Turn it off. There's the block button. Boop. Gone. In real life, it's a lot harder to block people, because you can't just hit the reset button and turn it off. You got to deal with it. But see, the way we are now is we're so quick to pull a gun and shoot somebody instead of talking about the problem that we've forgotten how to communicate with each other. It's not about white or black anymore. It's not about, some of that still exists, yes. I'm not saying it's totally gone, by no means. But, somebody will pull a gun out and shoot you now for looking at them the wrong way. And it saddens me, because we've lost our ability, or forgotten our ability, to communicate with one another. Hey man, please don't do that. Please don't say that. I don't like that. It's not cool. I wouldn't do that to you. Please don't do it to me. We've forgotten the golden rule. Treat others as you would want to be treated. Basic effects, guys. Basic effects. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you don't like the reaction, change the tone. Try a different form of communication. Let me ask the people on the air right now, anybody that's with me right now, when's the last time you wrote a letter? When is the last time you took out pen and paper or used a machine to type or write a letter? I'm not talking about an email. I'm talking about a freaking letter. Here's why I'm telling you this. Last week, I was so stressed about something so simple. Something so simple. And Jack gave me a couple of ideas of how to work on it, how to fix it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And I went my own way and got my head up my own butt. Robin said a what? A letter. Yeah, exactly. Society has forgotten about pen and paper and stamp and envelope and mail it to somebody. Because do you know what that does? That is something they have that no one else can take away from them. That is something that you wrote on a piece of paper, and they can read the words over and over and over again. The other day, my head was so full of shit, I was trying to figure out what to do, and I was crying and upset and angry, and I took out my notebook and I started writing. I started writing at 11:30 in the morning, and I finished at 3:30 in the morning. I wrote 6 pages nonstop of what was on my mind. I just let the words come out as they came out, and my CP took over, and my handwriting was sloppy, and it didn't look the greatest, but you know what? I got it out, and I looked at it on the paper, and I went, oh my God. DJ, you're letting this thing consume you. So to get it out on paper, and Kim wanted me to talk about it, and I said, I can't talk about it. That's why I wrote it down. So finally she came in here, and she read the 6 pages that I wrote. And she sat down beside me on the bedside and said, baby, I know I didn't say anything, but I still know what you're going through. And regardless of the situation, you can either let it eat at you, like Captain Jack said, or you can confront the individual, like Captain Jack said, or you can let it go, like Captain Jack said. And I know in those 3 phrases, the words Captain Jack, Captain Jack, Captain Jack, when you meet a person that has your best interest in mind and your best interest at heart from the start of every situation, it makes it better sometimes when you're able to write it out and get it on paper so that you can send it or see it. It's
Thomas is trying to get on and he can't get on.
He has to restart his computer. That's not something I can fix. I literally have seen people keep Christmas card trees, but then after the holidays, throw them away. When someone sends you a letter or sends you a card, they are taking the time to write and they take the time to write a personal message inside of it. Not just Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, I love you, blah, blah, blah. When they take the time to check on you and they send you a letter, I value that because they are taking the time to say how they feel on paper. And it becomes more than just an item that you're reading. It becomes more than just a letter that you're holding. It is a piece of them. It is a time where they have to slow down. Think about what they are saying and doing. Write words down on a neat little line with punctuation. They have to write out your address, put a stamp on it, to pay for postage. They take time to get up, go to the mailbox, and put that letter in the mailbox to address it to you. Once in a while, I will write Kim a sweet little note, or I will say, I love you, I hope you have a great day, you're a wonderful wife, I want lots and hugs of kisses, blah, 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 blah. I'll be all gushy, I can write a poem, I can sing a song, but once in a while, I will get out my Lord of the Rings journal and I will really write what's on my mind. And I don't hide anything from Kim. That's a great idea, Kristen. That's a wonderful idea. I'll put dates on them and keep them in a scrapbook. See, that shows that those letters that you receive mean something to you. And I now know why, when I was 12 years old, from the time I was 12 to the time I was 21, I wrote 2 letters a week at camp. My mother has all those letters that I wrote. I never knew she kept them. I never knew that she valued them. I never realized how much they meant to her until the other day when she turned 70, and I went, oh my God, my mom is 70. How much time does she have left? How many more letters can I get out? How many more times can I call her on the phone? There has to be a way for us to realize, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. We're trying to do all these newfangled ways to do stuff and changes, and sometimes what you've got to do is go back to the old ways that worked. The discipline starts at a young age, not when they're 7 or 8, when they're 1 or 2. You have to learn how to communicate with each other. Ask for help if you need it. Talk to somebody. Learn from one another. Don't just beat the crap out of your kids. Punish them, but do it in the right way. You know, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, and we look at time as an endless possession that we own. Well, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we don't own time, and pretty soon time is going to rub us out, because that's the only thing that's going to keep going that we can't stop. No matter if we're alive or dead, bills still come. No matter if we're alive or dead, time still passes and things still happen. Life goes on. But it's the remembrance and the memories that you have of the ones that you've lost to help keep them alive. We keep trying to find something or fix something. It's not necessarily broken. We've just gotten away from the way we were raised. We've gotten away from packing lunches, putting little notes in the lunch boxes, telling our child or children to succeed, and most of all, telling your children that you love them. Words can lift up, words can motivate, words can push you through, but words can also destroy. And we are so quick to tell people what they can't do or what they won't do, instead of lifting them up, believing in them, and helping them to succeed by pushing them in the right direction. You know, Aaron, I was talking about that earlier, and it's amazing, and I don't mean just by, the belt or by spanking, but my mom always said, you want to call 911 or call CPS by the time they get here. You will have been abused, I can tell you that. But nowadays, we're afraid to discipline our children because of society. We need to take our society back and control it the way it was controlled, because that's when kids stopped. That's when you don't have 8-year-olds carrying guns to school. When I was growing up in the early 90s, once in a while we'd see a fight with a knife. Now you got kids carrying guns, and not just guns, big guns, to school, and people being shot in movie theaters because we're so quick to pull that trigger instead of opening our mouths and communicating like we should be doing. Loving one another and working with one another instead of shooting somebody. Stop judging and start helping. And see if it doesn't make a difference. I know it's hard. I know it's hard because everything and everybody's telling you, no, we can't go back. Technically you can't go back, but you can still use what tools brought you up in the world and the way you were raised. In the good way. I'm not talking about beating the crap out of your kids. I'm talking about doing it right. By having restraint. But also doing it with love, because you want your kids to succeed and not fail. So I'm going to end the show with this. I always say, if you want to be a guest on the show, email me. We're at 170 episodes. And I don't know how much longer my CP does not define me is going to go. I don't know how many more episodes I've got in me. I don't know how many more Wednesdays I've got left. I don't know how many more shows I'm going to do. Because it's hard. It's hard. I've, done shows and had guests, and, I enjoy it. But it's tough. So I don't know. The book is done. We're just working on getting it. We're working on getting it published right now. I don't know how many more I have in me. I don't know. And I will let Facebook know. I will let my fans know. I will let everybody know what I decide to do. But I'm gonna go as long as I can until the wheels fall off. And I know that's a funny statement to some of you, but that's kind of where I am with what I'm doing. I appreciate all the fans that I have, and I want to give a very special shout out to the folks that joined the concert last Saturday and the donators that donated. Drake, Robin, thank you very much for donating. I want to give a special shout out to every member that has watched the concert on replay and shared it. And you keep asking and saying, when's the next one? When's the next one? Thank you. Thank you, guys. I will see you next Wednesday for my CP. Does not define me. You guys have a great night.